The movie begins in a small, quiet suburban town in Tennessee, where police cars full of officers are rushing into one of the houses. The neighbors watch in amazement as the cops, guns drawn, drag a young man with large sores on his face out of his home and into their cars. While he's being forced into the vehicles and the entire ride to the station, the young man kept yelling that something was in the water, panicking with each other when he saw his neighbors using it. 6 months before the incident, on a small farm outside of town, Frances asks her daughter Alice to call in the boys for breakfast. While she hurries out to the field, she finds her brother Zach and their bully stepbrother Cyrus fighting after he had pushed him on a pile of dirt. Hurrying up to them, their father Nathan tells them to stop, slapping Zach a few times for good measure. He then starts quoting the scripture on how brothers must love each other, which upsets Zach, making him speak up that neither of them were related to him, which earns him another slap. Once the family gathers for breakfast along with Mike, the farmhand, they start to eat. A few minutes later, Charlie, the town realtor, drives up to the farm and is greeted by Frances, who sternly tells him that her husband has a lot of concerns and explains that he doesn't want to add to his problem by hearing Charlie's consistent question to buy the farm. Charlie tries to make his case by telling Frances that the farm isn't what it used to be, and explains that if they weren't able to pay their taxes, the government would put their house on the auction block. Unwilling to hear anymore, Frances sends the man away after telling him that they would manage. Later, Frances secretly watches Mike work with a lustful gaze plastered all over her face. She is unhappy with her overly religious husband and the way he treats her in a very backward way. After being ignored by Nathan yet again, Frances goes up to her children's bedroom to check on them. After tucking in Alice, she goes to see Zach, who expresses annoyance at his incredibly strict stepfather. Warning him not to be disrespectful, she tells him that she knew he wasn't like her late husband, but Nathan came to them at their worst time and explained that he was a good man. After making sure all of her children are asleep, Frances gets into her nightgown and tries to make advances at her husband, but he immediately shuts her down, telling her that it isn't proper for a woman to make the first move. Waiting until her husband falls asleep, Frances sneaks out of the house and goes over to Mike's shack. Driven by passion, the two decide to sleep together. A little while later, Nathan is awakened by a heavy thunderstorm brewing outside and realizes his wife is not in bed. Suddenly, a large meteorite heading straight to Earth crashes into the backyard of the farm, making a disturbingly loud noise. Running out of the house, Zach headed straight to the fiery hole the crashed object had caused. Just as Nathan is leaving the house, he sees Frances and Mike walk out of his shack, a guilty look on both their faces. She follows him into the woods to see what had happened, with tears falling down her face. Rushing next door, Zach calls their neighbors Dr. Allen and his wife, telling them that a glowing meteorite has crashed in their land. After they've all taken a good look at it, the group gathers in the back of the farmhouse and Allen explains he had seen a meteorite sample in college before, but it was nothing like the one outside. Allen urges them to stay away from the object until the right experts take a look at it, just to be safe. Once Allen and his wife leave, Nathan orders the children to go to bed and angrily storms up to his room. The following morning, Charlie rushes to Allen's house clinic and asks to speak to him in private. After he takes him to his office, Charlie tells the doctor that he has seen the meteorite at Nathan's farm, but doesn't think it's necessary to call the authorities because he thinks they might change their minds about the reservoir. Charlie makes a point that they should make sure they have something to worry about before calling anyone. Later that day, Allen heads down to the meteorite with Charlie and tries to get a sample from the object, but ends up fracturing it, causing a leak on its side. After some of the liquid, Allen tries to do whatever tests he can, but he is unable to find anything. Allen's wife Esther sides with Charlie and convinces her husband that they should keep quiet about what they have seen. At the farm, Zach watches the spherical object in their backyard continue to glow and decrease in size as if it were melting and seeping into the ground. In a few moments, the object had completely dissolved and disappeared. The next morning, Allen drops by Nathan's farm while they're having dinner and lies to them about the nature of the object, telling them that he thinks it's just accidental fuel dumped by a passing plane that froze on its way down. Although everyone is relieved, Zach feels like their neighbor might be hiding something. For the next few days, the farm continued to function like usual, Nathan using his underground water source to water the plants and feed his animals. In a couple of days, Frances goes out to pick some vegetables and finds that they have grown well and plump like never before. She then takes them inside and tries to cut them open to prepare a meal, but finds that the insides are completely rotten and have a putrid smell. Disposing of the cabbages immediately, she tries the tomatoes next, but the juices of the rotten tomato are splashed all over her face. Waiting until it's late that night, Zach sneaks over to Alan's house and hears him speaking to his wife about how guilty he feels for lying to everyone and that he doesn't want to be reckless with people's wives. Esther, who is bored with the small-town life and hoping the reservoir will attract more people, dresses up provocatively and convinces him further to keep quiet. In a quaint farmhouse, Zach and Alice sit down for breakfast with their family, but something is off. They detect an unusual taste in the water they've been drinking for days. Concerned, they voice their suspicion, only to be dismissed by their stepfather, Nathan, who insists that everything is perfectly fine. After breakfast, the men set out to work on their chores and start hearing Cyrus scream for help. When they get there, they find the boy being attacked by one of the horses and help him escape. While Francis cleans up his wound, Cyrus explains that the horse had acted without being provoked, but his father refuses to believe him. A few seconds later, something that looked like a sore appeared on her face, and her responses seemed out of the ordinary. Leaving her alone to rest, Nathan, Zach and Cyrus head out to the apple farm to gather the harvest when they're surprised by Charlie. The realtor explains that he had managed to get their neighboring farm to sell and urges Nathan to do the same. Keeping his calm, Nathan tells the greedy man that he has enough apples to last him for 6 months now and, feeling confident, offers Charlie a freshly picked one. Immediately biting into it, Charlie is shocked to see that it is filled with maggots and yells at Nathan for trying to poison him. Surprised at what happened, Nathan starts checking a few of the other apples and finds that they're all rotting and are filled with maggots on the inside. Suddenly, the group hears Alice's screams and hurries toward the chicken coop where she had been feeding the animals. When they arrive, they find her bleeding all over after being violently attacked by the birds. The family immediately calls Alan to take a look at the girl, and he manages to bandage her up and gives her a sedative so she can sleep. That night, as the boys are watching TV and Nathan is calculating his losses, Frances sits on the couch mumbling something that makes no sense. Her face warts seem to have gotten worse and were spreading all over. Zach notices blood on her hands and realizes that she was sewing her arms to the cloth, then rushes to stop her with the help of Nathan. She then becomes violent and starts screaming and attacking the people around her. While dragging her upstairs, Nathan tells her that God is punishing her for her sins, reminding her of her infidelity. Cornered about his mother, Zach hurries to Alan's house and calls him over, but Nathan sends him away, telling him that she was just feeling under the weather. Once Alan leaves, Nathan slaps Zach, warning him never to bring strangers into their private business unless he says so. On his way out, Alan secretly gets a sample of the farm's well for analysis. The following morning, a TVS man sent to scout the area for the new reservoir comes over to the farmhouse. After a few hours of work, he knocks at the door to ask for some water, but when he doesn't get an answer, he goes in uninvited and tries to grab it himself. Suddenly, a delusional Frances charges at him with a kitchen knife, but she is abruptly stopped by Nathan, who kicks the man out. In the next couple of days, the family notices Frances's continued deterioration, but Nathan is unwilling to help her, adamant about letting her go through what he assumed was her punishment. While doing their daily check of the cattle, Nathan finds nasty sores and wounds growing all over their body, their insides rotting and growing maggots while they're still alive. The incident solidifies his idea that they were all being punished by Frances's sin, so he ties her up to the bed as she struggles for freedom and blames her for all their recent misfortunes. A few minutes later, Nathan falls asleep and Frances manages to untie herself, startling Zach by the way she looks. Her face was now completely disfigured and she had mutated into something that didn't look human. Nathan manages to subdue her and throws her in the basement after tying her up. Alan had given a lab the water samples he had taken from Nathan's farm and returned the following day for the result. The nervous technician takes him aside and tells him that the element they found in the water had never been discovered before and explains that it was capable of changing the molecular structure. After a call from her husband, Esther meets Charlie and the two head up to Nathan's farm only to be attacked and killed by aggressive dogs and the now fully transformed Frances. Nathan, who has now also fallen ill, finds out that Zach has been sneaking out into town and buying stored food for him and his sister, then tries to kill him. After managing to escape from his stepfather, Zach hurries upstairs and beats the now transformed Cyrus and grabs his sister to get her out, but doesn't realize Nathan has started to board up the house. Rushing back from town, Alan heads straight to Nathan's farm and tries to look around the house, but he's ambushed by the ghastly-looking farmer. Zach, planning to call for some help, heads down the stairs and finds the doors boarded. While trying to get them open, Nathan tries to skewer him with a pitchfork, but before he can, Alan runs in and stabs Nathan first. As Zach runs upstairs to save his sister, the house starts shaking and breaking apart as if there was a force pushing it from the ground. A thick mist begins to surround the entire vicinity of the place, slowly seeping into every crevice of the house. Following him upstairs, the man grabs Alice and hurries downstairs, while Zach returns to his parents' room to find his mother. When he finds her in the attic, he sees that her condition has worsened even more, and her body is melting, rotting from the inside out. Devastated by what he had seen, Zach turns back and hurries back downstairs. Hurrying toward where Alan had parked the car, the three of them rush away from the cursed place as the house breaks down and is swallowed into the ground. After a long investigation, the authorities assured people that there was nothing to worry about and the contamination had been contained. The movie ends by showing us a different area where the land has started to exhibit the same symptoms Nathan's farm had: glowing goo flowing through the cracks and spreading.